There's a reason you've been feeling watched, a reason your skin crawls when you're alone. It's not just your imagination. Some people don't need a reason to violate your trust. They just want to see you stripped, not of your clothes, but of your peace, your dignity, your strength. But what they didn't expect is what happens when the one they try to break decides to rise. This isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming what they tried to steal, your power. It started with a strange noise, a soft click, barely noticeable, yet sinister in the silence of the night. The bathroom had always been your sanctuary, a place of solitude, of vulnerability, of reflection. But now it felt violated, like someone had entered, not with footsteps, but with eyes. For days, you brushed off the feeling. Everyone feels watched sometimes. It's just stress, maybe paranoia, right? But one night, while brushing your teeth, you noticed it. A glimmer behind the air vent. It wasn't the kind of glimmer metal gives. It was a reflection of a lens, a tiny camera, hidden, planted, and suddenly your heart dropped into your stomach. Your hands shook as you reached out and unscrewed the vent cover, revealing the cold, lifeless eye of a tiny device that had been watching you. Every movement, every moment of privacy, stolen. Someone who wanted to see you in your weakest, most exposed state. Not out of love, not out of concern, but out of obsession, control, dominance. But this story isn't about them. This story is about you. Because what they tried to see wasn't your body. It was your breaking point. They wanted to witness the unraveling, the tears, the collapse. They wanted to own your fear. And for a moment, they almost did. You sat on the bathroom floor, camera in your hand, breathing uneven, heart racing. The questions came rushing like a flood. Who did this? Why? How long has it been there? Where are the recordings? How many moments have they taken from you? And then the most terrifying question of all. What will you do now? That night, you didn't sleep. But not out of fear. No. Fear had turned into fire. The kind that doesn't destroy you, but ignites you. You started digging. Not into your trauma, but into their trail. You remembered a visitor. Someone who insisted on fixing the water pressure. A person you once trusted. A friend of the family. Harmless, right? Except they weren't. They never were. They walked into your space wearing a smile, but left behind something vile. A betrayal that stung like acid. But here's what they didn't know. You weren't broken. You were awakening. While they expected shame and silence, you moved with strategy. You didn't scream. You didn't panic. You documented. Photographed. Recorded every detail. You became the hunter. You contacted a specialist. Someone who could trace the camera's feed. And what they found, it was a live transmission being watched in real time. Someone, somewhere, was watching your life like a twisted show, enjoying your vulnerability as if it was entertainment. But they were about to witness something far more powerful. The rise. You didn't just want them caught. You wanted the truth exposed. And not just for you, but for every person who has ever been violated, silenced, or humiliated by someone who thought they'd get away with it. So you let it play. You stepped back into that bathroom, knowing full well you were being watched. And then you faced the camera. You stared straight into its lens, not with fear, but with fury. And you spoke, not to beg, not to plead, but to warn. I know who you are, and I know what you've done. You think watching me makes you powerful? It doesn't. It makes you pathetic. But thank you. Because this moment right here, it's the last time anyone ever uses me for their darkness. I'm done being a victim. And soon, you'll be nothing but a name on a charge sheet. And then you ripped it out. You exposed it, not just authorities, but to your family, your friends, your community. You made it public, not to shame yourself, but to shame them, to make an example. Because silence protects a predator. Exposure destroys their game. Of course, people talked. The whispers came. The judgments followed. But you stood firm. Because for the first time, you weren't hiding. You weren't burying the trauma. You were burning it down, piece by piece. And as the investigation unfolded, more secrets spilled. This wasn't the first time they'd done it. You were just the first to fight back. They found other victims, silent, scared, scarred, but your voice gave them courage. You were the echo that turned into a roar. And in court, as the perpetrator stood in shackles, you didn't cry, you didn't shake. You stood taller than ever, because you weren't just testifying. You were defying every ounce of control they thought they had, gone. Every second they believed you'd remain silent, over. You reclaimed your name, your image, your story. And people started seeing you differently, not as someone who was watched, but as someone who sees everything now. Because trauma, when faced head-on, becomes vision. And you see through lies now, through manipulation, through the games of the weak who feed on the strong. You became a mirror to every monster, showing them their own face. But the most powerful part? You didn't let hate consume you. You let it fuel you. You spoke in schools, in forums. You educated others on hidden abuse, on surveillance, on boundaries. You turned your pain into purpose. And that terrified them more than anything, because they wanted to see your breakdown. Instead, they witnessed your breakthrough. You see, sometimes the people who try to strip you down aren't looking for flesh. They're looking for your surrender. They want your silence, your collapse, your defeat. But here's the truth. Your vulnerability is not their victory. It's your weapon. Your story isn't over. It's only beginning. You're not what happened to you. You're what you decided to become after it. So the next time someone tries to look into your life uninvited, remind them, you don't just see what's being done. You rise from it. And when you rise, you shine so bright they go blind. They thought it was over. That after exposure came closure. But healing, true healing, is not a finish line. It's a battlefield. And when you've been stripped, violated, and used like entertainment, your real power doesn't just come from surviving. It comes from how you rebuild and who you become in the ruins they left behind. You didn't just destroy their device. You rewired your mind. Now, it's time to show the world what happens when the hunted learns to hunt. The court case ended with conviction. They were sentenced, fined, labeled, but deep down you knew punishment wasn't justice. Not completely. Justice came not for what happened to them, but from what awakened inside you, because in the days that followed, something changed. Your fear didn't return. Your trust didn't shatter again. Instead, a quiet storm brewed within you. It started small. You began reading about boundaries, consent, surveillance. You studied manipulation tactics, psychological control, the art of gaslighting, and how abusers hide in plain sight. You began to understand that your experience wasn't isolated. It was part of a pattern, a sickness too many endure in silence. But you were done being silent. You turned your story into a mission. Your first step? A blog post. You wrote everything down. The fear, the discovery, the rage, the courtroom, the transformation. And it exploded. Comments flooded in, not from strangers with pity, but from warriors with scars. People who've been watched, touched, recorded, used, broken, and never told a soul. But now they told you. And just like that, you became something unexpected. A voice for the voiceless. A storm that others could stand in. You partnered with an NGO that focused on digital safety and abuse prevention. You helped launch workshops in schools, teaching young people how to recognize red flags, how to secure their spaces, how to speak up when something feels wrong. You weren't just healing, you were healing others. But with visibility came something darker. Threats. From those who hated what you represented. From the hidden predators whose masks began to crack because of your words. Some emailed you under fake names. Some tried to dig into your past. One even tried to reach out, pretending to be a friend who understood. But you weren't the same anymore. The old you might have shrunk at the shadows. But the new you became the shadow that watched back. You traced IPs. You reported. You exposed. Your pain had become your precision. And in the process, you inspired a revolution. A woman from another country read your story and exposed her own stalker. A college student uncovered cameras in her shared dorm bathroom because she recognized the signs you once described. A teacher used your story to protect her students from an abusive staff member. Each time you shared, the ripple grew stronger, and so did you. But it wasn't always easy. There were nights you'd lie awake, remembering the initial violation, wondering if all of this had cost you too much. Peace, privacy, innocence. And that's when it would hit you. They didn't take your innocence. They exposed your fire. And fire doesn't apologize for burning. One evening, you were invited to speak on a major platform, a televised event watched by millions. It was your biggest audience yet. As you stood backstage, microphone clipped to your shirt, heart pounding, hands trembling just slightly, you remembered the bathroom, the camera, the silence, and then you stepped into the light. I used to think silence protected me, you said, but silence only ever protected them. The ones who want to see you broken, naked, not just in body, but in spirit. They don't care about your beauty. They care about your collapse. But what they forget is that sometimes what they think will destroy you is what builds you. The audience didn't clap. Not at first. They were still eyes wide, breath held. Then someone stood. Then another, until everyone was on their feet. It wasn't just applause. It was acknowledgement. They saw your scars. And they saw your strength. Later that night, alone in your hotel room, you looked into the bathroom mirror. The same place where fear had once lived. Now all you saw was power. And yet, this story still had one final chapter. Because while you had reclaimed yourself, you knew there were others still lost. One day, as you scrolled through messages, you found one that froze you in place. It was from another victim. But this one had tried to end their life because of the same predator who once targeted you. The realization was like a dagger to the chest. You weren't the first. You weren't the only. You were simply the loudest. So you reached out. You talked. You listened. You didn't preach. You didn't push. You reminded them of something the world forgets far too often. Your worth isn't tied to what someone did to you. It's tied to what you decide to do next. And with that message, they chose to live. Not just survive, but live. Because of you. So let them watch. Let them install cameras. Let them hide behind screens. Let them laugh in the dark and think they're winning. Because one day, the person they think is weak will rise. And not just rise, but roar. You're not what happened to you. You're what you did about it. And if someone placed a camera in your bathroom, in your space, in your life, not to see your body, but to see your breakdown, make sure what they really see is your becoming. Turn their obsession into your origin story. Turn their perversion into your platform. And most of all, never forget, you were never the victim. You were always the storm.